Among other things, Rick was the former manager of Taylor Swift.
And it's just allowed her to blow up to be the biggest star in the world. And that's what Taylor did better than anyone, building a worldwide fan base before she ever released music. Just a good human. Over 400 pounds, tattoos all over his face. But if you guys aren't familiar with Jelly Roll, new male artist of the year in country music.
How does someone tackle that?
Identify who you are, what makes you different. If money is what you want, that's what we look for. Technology is speed. Digital has opened up the playing field to everyone to get their product out into the world. Right now, there are no barriers to entry. Most people do not prepare themselves for success.
All right, welcome to the Rugged Human Podcast. My guest this week is Mr. Rick Barker. For those of you who don't know Rick is the founder of the Music Industry Blueprint, helps musicians with digital marketing and monetizing their music. And among other things, Rick was the former manager of Taylor Swift, who I'm sure you've heard of. And Rick was really integral getting her launched in her early career when she was starting off in that countryside before she moved into the pop. So that is Mr. Rick Barker. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Dude, it's finally a time for us to be able to get together and chat.
Absolutely.
You know, we've known each other for, ages.
Do you want to tell the story or should I about how we met?
Well, we've known each other for over 30 years.
Yes.
And Jared was a rock star. He was a guitar player in a band called Dog. And I was a radio personality in Santa Barbara, California. And I was actively involved in helping promote up-and-coming musicians. And I mean, we did Battle of the Bands, we did compilation CDs, you name it, we did it. And he dated one of my roommates at the time, that's probably one of the last times at that point that I had seen you. We'd recently reconnected here in Nashville. But it's been a long, long time.
I remember those days we were talking about. I don't know if you remember this. I think I talked that when I was in Nashville visiting you that first time.
The guitar that you won?
Yes, the guitar. So the winning band got this guitar, and it was a Starfield guitar, and I still have that guitar.
Oh, wow. And
it's great because Rick presented it to me, after the Battle of the Bands thing or whatever. It was up on stage and everything. It was great. This one of the little clubs in Santa Barbara. I, to be honest, don't remember which one was, but still have that guitar. And here's a great story behind that too. Is my dad who loves woodworking.
Okay.
The guitar was this god awful lime green. So
that was a popular color back then,
Well, I guess it was back in those days. We don't want to date ourselves too much, but the guitar was so horrible that I decided to refinish it. And me and my dad refinished the guitar.
Oh, wow.
And it was a great, he's up in his mid 80s right now, he's spry as a bunny, but still it was a great time for us to connect. And it was that guitar brought more than just that fun time back in the day. It's a great guitar too, but it brought my dad and I closer together too. So there's a little bit back end on that, which I really appreciate. So every time I look at the guitar, it's got a lot of memories for me. So
there you go.
Let's get into one of the things that I really wanted to first talk with you about is the changing landscape of the music industry. I mean, This has been going on for a while. We remember when Napster came out and people started, doing all these illegal downloads, and then that built into things and like Spotify and platforms like iTunes and things like that. And one of my good friends at the time, she was the CFO for Capitol Records in Los Angeles. And she's now living in Nashville. I need to introduce you to. But she was they were in charge of Coldplay at that one time. And when all that streaming came in, it really hammered Capitol. I mean, it almost put them out. And Coldplay was one of the bands that they had as an act that kept them moving forward. But I remember she and I were talking about what's going to happen with this whole digital landscape. And it really has shifted everything. So how does a musician or a band or a producer or a DJ navigate this now when you don't need like a big record label to come in and sign you as much anymore?
Well, I think the thing with digital has opened up the playing field to everyone. Sure. It's allowed that band in the middle of nowhere who doesn't have to physically live in a per se music town to be able to get their product out into the world and start, building fans worldwide. I think it's a great landscape because right now there are no barriers to entry. There are no gatekeepers. You know, the gatekeeper is yourself. It's like, what are you willing to do to embrace technology, not fight technology? Embrace technology to be able to take what you've created, what you're passionate about, and share that with other people. I think the biggest mistake that a lot of artists make is thinking that things will go back. They won't. Nothing ever goes back. And seeing it as an opportunity and not as a hindrance. Sure, you don't make as much, but you weren't making anything anyway if nobody was coming to your shows or buying your songs or buying your music. So you're now in a position to be able to start identifying fans throughout the world. But the key is making relationships with those people. That's what people don't realize. Music does not make the relationship. Music starts the conversation. It's ultimately the person who is going to build that relationship. And that's what Taylor did better than anyone. Is she saw MySpace. She saw an opportunity to converse directly with fans, not having to wait till they were present physically in front of her to be able to do this. And that's what she did. She started building a worldwide fan base before she ever released music through the record company. She already had an audience anticipating what was coming. She already had an audience who knew who she was. She already had an audience that felt connected to her. And it's just allowed her to blow up to be the biggest star in the world.
You read my mind. Go back in time when you first met Taylor and you were, I think, how did you meet her and how did that come about? I didn't really get the beginning of that story.
I was, as I did my whole radio career in Santa Barbara, the latter stages of my career from 2001 to 2004, I had built a country station up in the San Ynez Valley, which is the wine country right above Santa Barbara. And it was at that radio station where I started being introduced to artists in the country music space, to record companies. And I started realizing, see, I came from the rock world. I came from the hip hop world. So when I started seeing artists come through town and would never get on stage, or I would ask questions like, why don't we get them to perform while they're here? And I would hear things like, well, they don't have enough material to perform. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know guys that will play for hours. What do you mean you signed an artist to a major label who can't play for 30 minutes, who doesn't have 5 songs or 6 songs or 7 songs? And I said, well, what if I could create an opportunity to get them in front of an audience, to get their music familiar in my town and put them on stage? And I created the first ever radio tour where artists got paid. And that put me on the radar of a gentleman by the name of Scott Borchetta, who owned a record company called Big Machine Records. And Scott ended up hiring me to work for Big Machine Records. And he said, look, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take this 15-year-old that no one's ever heard of and teach her the music business, teach her radio, help her become a performer, help her build her audience. And that's how I ended up with Taylor. I did it from the record label side. And then 6 months after that, her family reached out and said, listen, we can't find a manager. You and Taylor seem to be doing everything. Would you be interested in being her manager? And she was my very first client. What's funny is I said no when they asked. And I said, they're like, why? I said, because I've never been a manager before. And they're like, listen, we're not hiring you for your management experience. We're hiring you because you believe in her, because you're not conforming to the rest of the industry. You're doing things that are different. And we love the way you think marketing wise. We love the way that you encourage her. We love the way that you teach her. And she wanted to learn. I wanted to teach. And it was a match made in heaven at that time.
Perfect. So how did you guys then navigate? Because you were with her literally at the onset of all that social media. How did you navigate that as you were trying to navigate the record label, managing Taylor Swift's career, dealing with all of the admin stuff that goes along with that? And
sure. Well, the good news is that I was co-managing per se with the record company. So the record company was handling all the admin stuff. My sole focus was on her growth. And we saw social media as an opportunity. We didn't see it as a hindrance. We saw it as a way for, like I said earlier, for her to go out and build these relationships with these fans, to share her music with these fans. So that's where we kept our focus. If we would have sat around and waited till her song was released at radio, waited till it had chart movement, the label then in normal traditions would have said, okay, one song did great. Now we'll release another song. So at that time, you've got 2 songs out in a 2-year period of time. It just wouldn't have worked. So they allowed us to try things different. That's what was great about being at an independent label who was distributed by a major. Universal So we had the freedom of an independent label, but we had the backing of a major. So they were like, go try whatever it is that you want to try. It was a brand new landscape, and trying to convince the superstars in country to try some of the weird stuff that Taylor and I did wouldn't have worked. But after they saw the success we were having, then they started doing it. They started following along. They started trying to understand, okay, what's this girl doing? Because she's got a top 20 song at radio, but she's already sold 500,000 records. How did she do that? That had never happened before. Usually the radio success dictated the success of album sales. And at that time we had CDs. You had to physically go buy products. So when they saw what we were doing, now all of a sudden the whole industry's turned around going, okay, we need to pay attention to what these two are doing because it's different and something's up. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we didn't do what everyone else did. That was our secret to success is we were willing to experiment. We were willing to try. We didn't fight the system. As Scott said, we were both too dumb to know any better. And that was to our advantage.
And you were early adopters of social media as a business strategy.
Correct.
Back in those days, I remember, Facebook was like, oh, you just go hang out with your friends and, put something on somebody's.
Well, we didn't even have Facebook. We had to actually borrow her fiddle player's Facebook page because at the time Facebook came out, it was only available to college students and neither one of us were in college. Yeah. So we borrowed her fiddle player, Emily's Facebook page to start that building. But when you say we used it as a business tool, what people don't understand is the goal of any business is to get the right product in front of the right person. Yeah. So we saw, here's where these people, the right people were hanging out. Why wouldn't we show up there? Why wouldn't we say, hey, I'm going to go share this song with somebody in England and I didn't have to travel to England, and I'm going to share this song with someone in California and I didn't have to travel to California. It's like we saw this as an opportunity when the majority of people saw it as, oh crap, another place I need to be. Well, if that's how you feel about your business is, oh crap, I have to go find people for my business, then you shouldn't be in business. That's just my opinion. It's like, if you aren't willing to go to the people, it's so crowded today. People don't have time to find you. You have to show up in front of them with something that sparks their interest. You can't wait for them to find you with any business.
Exactly. And that's the power of social media that I think a lot of people don't talk about, which brings us into, as we've looked at the music industry changing, how does the musician then, say one of your clients or one of somebody's doing that, how does that musician become a business? How do they monetize that using the social media and the methods you ultimately just talked about?
Well, social media is not used to monetize. It's used to build relationships. And ultimately, the part that's, I always tell people, we're trying to function in a dysfunctional business because, one, the consumer does not have to pay to consume your product. You can see videos for free. You can watch, you can listen to songs for free. They don't have to pay to enjoy what it is that you've created. So ultimately what they're going to do, in my opinion, is they're going to invest in the relationship. So how do you use social as a way to get to know people? How do you use social as a way to not just promote, to not just push your product on someone, but how do you incorporate your music into their day-to-day lives? The great thing, like right now with Spotify, for example, is they have emotion-based playlists. So they could have a workout playlist. So now music can be incorporated into your life if you're working out. They have Sunday Stroll. They have top-down driving. They have jazz. They have all these emotion-based playlists, which is now allowing your music to tap into someone's emotion. That's all we're selling with music is emotions. Sure. The emotion may be to want to party. The emotion may be to want to get busy with your significant other. The emotion may be to work out. The emotion may be to chill, to relax, to smoke a joint, whatever it is. It's like there's an emotion and a playlist and a song that can be the soundtrack to whatever it is that you're wanting to feel at that particular time. If you're down and out, you're not going to be listening to upbeat music. You might be listening to some chiller type music. If you want to go for a jog, you're not going to play classical music probably. You're going to go grab yourself a hair metal band from the 80s playlist if you want to run real fast. It's like whatever emotion you want to tap into, it's your job to put your music into that emotion and then let them figure out, wow, this is Jared. Let me find out more about Jared. And then they go to your Instagram page and they see what you're into. And they're like, oh, he's into the same things that I'm into. I want to get to know more about this person. So it's really just using social media as a tool, not as a business model. The business model is creating great music. It starts there. Every business starts with the product. So the product's got to be on point. Then you've got to do whatever you can to get that product in front of the right person. And the free way, the easy way, is through social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how does that then, how do they incorporate, well, how do you shift the
How do they make money?
Well, no, that I want to get there, but I think one of the things that I think about when people are so into their craft and they're an artist. And I remember, you probably remember.
I call them a hobbyist.
Yeah. How do they shift their thinking? Because it becomes, they have to rethink the way that they want to.
Well, they don't have to do anything, first off. If they want to run a business, they must rethink. They must take the creative part out of it. It's just, you can't just hold on to it. You can't. So basically, I always tell bands, I always tell everyone, you're worth what someone is willing to pay. You can put your own self-worth on yourself, but unless I feel the same way, you may not get what you feel you are worth. So for a band, how much should I charge for a show? I'm like, how many tickets can you sell? Well, I can't sell any tickets, but I'm going to perform that night, and the club owner should just pay me because of my art and my creativity. No, the club owner needs people in the building to drink drinks. They can put on a jukebox if they just want music in the background. They can turn on music choice. They can, hey Google, turn on rock and roll playlists from the 1970s. And all of a sudden you've got everything happening at that point. So it's like the artist has to remove. Did she just do it?
My Google heard you.
Yeah, that could be dangerous. She couldn't turn on the light, but she can find my playlist, right? So basically what happens is that the artist has to remove themselves from that and say, how do I put myself in a position? If money is what you want, where does the money come from? Mm-hmm. The money comes from ticket sales. The money comes from merch. Some people will say, well, the money comes from streaming. Well, at 0.003 cents for someone to listen from 0 to 30 seconds, you have to get millions and millions and millions of streams in order for you to generate income that way. That's just one seasoning on the steak. You need to build a relationship where someone wants to buy a ticket. They want to buy a t-shirt. They want to buy a ticket to a live show. Or we have one artist that I work with. We do virtual shows. We do them on Zoom, and we charge a ticket price, and we charge another ticket price if they want to come afterwards and do a virtual meet and greet and hang out with the artist and have conversations with the artist. So there's so many different ways that you can monetize the music. But the bigger problem is that people want business results without putting in business work. They think that just because they created it, someone should pay them for it. And that's not the case. It's sad, but it's not the case. It's not reality.
So how does that take us then into the branding of things, and how do they brand? How do they differentiate? Let's say that, let's use it.
Sure. Well, differentiate can come from a lot of different things. Yeah. It can come from the fact that Taylor wasn't different in that the fact that she was a country artist. She was different in the fact that she wrote songs for a particular audience. She was different because of how she looked. She was different because of how she sounded. So the key is identifying what makes you unique, what makes you different, and focus on that. A lot of people think brands are fonts and colors and logos, and that's part of it. But your brand is, who are you to them? Your brand is, how do they identify and connect with you? When we see McDonald's, we don't think luxurious hamburger, fine dining experience. We think consistent, fast, and probably the most addictive French fries in the world. We know what it is because of that brand. Now, if we go to Morton's, we're not going to go to Morton's and order a quarter pounder with cheese and some French fries. We're going to get a fine steak. If someone goes to a Journey concert, for example, they know they're going to play the songs that were a soundtrack for my life. I'm going to sing along with every song there. We're all probably going to dress alike. We're all probably, everybody is there on point with that brand. But if all of a sudden they said, hey, we're going to a Journey concert and we're all going to dress like we're going to a Jimmy Buffett concert, and we're all going to just be loud and obnoxious, that's not what's happening. That's not the brand. So it's like, identify who you are, what makes you different, What do the people that you want to attract, what do they expect from you? And then give that to them. If your brand is massive guitar solos, then you don't go there and do a singer-songwriter night. They didn't come there for that. They came there to see Joe Satriani. They came there to see that guy shred. So give them what it is that they want. Showcase what makes you different. Don't don't try to be like everyone else. We already have them. Just do everything you can to be yourself. When we sit down with an artist and we really start identifying their brand, I'm more into what are the movies you like? What are the books that you're reading? What are the kind of cars that you drive? How do you dress? Where do you like to hang out? What language do you speak with your friends? Is that the type? Because that's the type of person that you're going to want to attract. Those are more important points to get on point, basically, with your brand than I'm into black and red and I like dark colors. That's not a brand. That's a aesthetic of a brand. The brand is who are you? What are your beliefs? A lot of people now, if you're into Christian music, are you attracting a bunch of devil worshipers? Probably not. If you're a hip hop artist who's into hardcore hip hop, you're probably not going to go try to do Naughty by Nature and, those hip hop songs that were just fun and made you have a good time. Your brand is not, you may do rap, but it's a different kind of rap. It's a different kind of hip hop. You may do rock, but is it folk rock? Is it acoustic rock? Is it 70s style rock? Or is it thrash metal? Or is it Korn? Or is it Nine Inch Nails? It's like you could say I'm a rock band. Well, what kind of rock band are you? You can say I'm a pop artist. Well, what kind of pop artist are you? Are you a dancer? Do you stand on stage like Adele and just sing? That could be considered pop music. Who are you? What are you? What are you about? That's what you really need to key in and focus on, and then highlight those things.
Right. So ultimately, it's that authenticity factor, which
absolutely
within social media and within people. The more authentic we become with ourselves, the more true we become with ourselves.
Yes.
Whether it's a band or a person or your own, personal self-growth journey, the things that I like to talk about a lot of times.
That's right.
It ultimately comes down to if you're basically showing that true side of yourself. And the more authentic you can be, the more attractive you become to
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I know that that's who I'm most attracted to, or the people that I feel I can relate with, the people that I feel aren't BSing me, the people, it's like I'm not over here writing songs about being broke and poor. And then on my Instagram page, I'm making it rain money and showing fancy cars and bling. People can see right through that. And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's people like to write songs about struggle, but you go look at their socials and there's nothing they're struggling with. It's like Jelly Roll is a really good example. And if you guys aren't familiar with Jelly Roll, he's having so much success right now by being just a good human. He's over 400 pounds, tattoos all over his face, and he was the new male artist of the year in country music. Mm-hmm. They're like, whoa, wait a minute. He didn't look like George Strait. He didn't wear a cowboy. No, this is a guy being 100% real. And everything about his story, everything about his music, everything is on point and on brand. Now, has he gone on to make millions? Yes. But what does he do? He takes that money and he puts it back in the community. He just built a recording studio at a detention facility for teens because he wants them to find some form of worth while they're going through a very challenging time in their life, because he had been in prison. He had struggled. Someone had done it for him. So everyone's rooting for this guy right now because he's real. He doesn't pretend to be anything that he's not. He's very humble, very gracious. And that's one of the things that I told Taylor. Always err on the side of humble and gracious, and you will always win. And always be yourself, and you don't have to try to figure out, okay, who am I trying to be today? Who am I trying to impress today? Just be true to you.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote, and I don't remember, it's probably some Stoic thing, but there's no one more powerful than someone with true purpose and humility.
Correct. I agree with that. I like that.
I like that one too. So let's talk about, we got around to it before. How do we monetize? And I remember I was having a conversation, you had mentioned merch, and I was having a conversation with Klaus from Ugly Kid Joe, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And they were just they were just finishing up, I think, one part of their European tour. I think they're still out on tour right now. I'm not sure. And we were talking about it. It was right before I left Santa Barbara. We actually ran into each other at the grocery store. And we were talking about how important merch is, merchandising, and selling the physical goods that go along with your brand. because that's one of the ways that bands' revenue comes in through them, way
Yes.
beyond the streaming and things like that.
Yes.
How does someone tackle that? How do they
Well,
get into
first you
that?
have to have an audience that feels that they would like to wear your merch, that they would like to represent you. And that's basically done once again through relationships. It could be the relationship with the music. It could be the relationship with the experience. I'm bigger on creating experiences now. I'm big on, collector's items. I was just reading an article where vinyl sales once again have surpassed CD sales, and most people don't have record players, but they're collector's items. It's a way for them to show not only support for their favorite artists, but to show their friends, look what I have. Exclusive content is great when it comes to really trying to identify merch. Taylor did something very cool. She released 34 different versions of one record. She released like multiple different versions with additional songs and different colors and different artwork. And she just created experiences that people wanted to tap into. And I think that when you go to, we'll bring up Journey again, is most people wouldn't try to buy an Abercrombie shirt that had a Journey logo. But if you can go make it look as far as what they remember and going down memory lane, and maybe it was their favorite album color or one of their favorite songs or what it is. I mean, Kiss continues to sell millions of dollars a year in merchandise, and they haven't toured for a few years. Why? Because the Kiss Army still wants whatever's available, and they want to give their kid their first Kiss t-shirt, and they want to, you know what I mean? It's like, and there's only a few bands that have ever, gone on to do things like that. But the thing I try to tell artists is this: can you find 1,000 people in the world that would be willing to spend $5 a month to be in a private community where you come on a Facebook Live and play a couple songs and chat once a month and interact with them? You're making 60 grand a year doing what you love, where most people go to a job making less than that doing what they hate. So manage your expectations. Realize that if you don't have an audience, go find 10 people. Then after you get 10, go find 50 more. And then after you get those 50, then get to 100. Everyone just wants the payoff. They don't want to do the work. They just want the payoff that they think comes with, well, I created this music. I should have thousands of people wanting to just send me money. It's unrealistic. It's not going to work that way. So manage expectations, make sure that you're putting in the work to balance those expectations. What I find a lot of times is that people's desire doesn't match their work ethic. They desire to be this, but they don't do the work to be this. I may desire to be thin, but do I do the work to be thin? Do I eat the way I'm supposed to be thin? What's even worse is when your talent does not match your desire. And there's a lot of untalented artists with unrealistic expectations. But when you can get the music, the desire, and the work ethic to line up, that's what separates those that will be able to put money in their pocket because of the art that they've created versus those people that just create art because they love it. And I'm trying to encourage more people to just do it because you love it. And then if anything happens, that's just a byproduct of something. But don't put unrealistic, unmanageable, unobtainable expectations on yourself, because to me, expectations are premeditated resentments, and whether you put that on a person or a situation, it's just not good for your mental health. It's just really not, it's like you could get down on yourself. But if you really sat back or had somebody with a different view that came in and said, listen, the reason that's not working is because of this. And if you're willing to change this, this could happen. If you're like, I'm just not willing to change, then that's okay. It's like I argue a lot. Well, I've stopped arguing, but for a time I thought I could save everyone. I argued a lot with older artists that said, I just wish it would go back to the way that it was. And I'm like, no, you don't. One, we didn't have the technology. Two, only the people that got on radio, got on MTV, got with a record label, got with a big time manager were the only ones in the game having a chance at what it is that you say you want. You don't want it to go back. Or I'll have people that'll say, man, Rick, I wish I would have met you 20 years ago. I'm like, no, I didn't have the tools 20 years ago to give you the opportunities that you have today. You've got me now. Now here's how we do it. The only thing you can speed up is your learning. The only thing you can speed up is the knowledge that you get. You can't speed up success. You can't buy success. If it could be bought, everyone would say, well, Taylor was successful because her dad had money. Well, there's a lot of dads with daughters with more talent than Taylor that aren't Taylor. So that wasn't it. Well, no, those are all excuses. They're all excuses. Did you put the right product in front of the right audience and make offers that they were interested in? Bottom line, no, I didn't. That's why you're not as successful as the artist that you say you want to be. It's because they did, or they have surrounded themselves with people that knew how to do it.
Exactly. And so you've basically embraced the experiential side of things. So you're creating unique experiences. You mentioned different kinds of collectible vinyl. That's obvious.
Yeah, collectible vinyl, collectible T-shirts. We've got, I have an artist right now, and Taylor does this, that makes bracelets for every song, the little beaded bracelets. They're very inexpensive. Cost you less than $1 to make them, and you can sell them for $5 or $10. And if you put out 12 songs a year and you have 1,000 bracelets and you sell them for $5 a piece, now you're back to that high five-figure number again. Now you're running a business.
Monetizing with things like merchandise, physical items. Yep. What are other experiential? You mentioned that you had an artist that you work with that you do Zoom and
virtual shows.
Meet and greet.
These are great.
Actual experience.
So what happened?
What happened? You're experimenting with.
So what we did is she has an international audience, and she's not in a position to be able to afford to go out and tour. The cost of touring is very expensive, from players and hotels and flights and everything that goes along with it. But she didn't want to pass up on the opportunity for them to feel like they were engaging. So we looked at it like, what would someone spend to go watch a movie for an hour? Yep. Movie prices right now, it's like whether it's $12.99 a month and you can watch all the movies you want on Netflix, or whether it's $20 to go to the theater. What is that experience? So we ended up selling tickets utilizing Eventbrite, which is just a ticketing platform. Right. We sold tickets for $10. Now, with our Zoom account, we can get 1,000 people to be able to watch this. So obviously, we're not selling 1,000 tickets yet, but we sold over 200 tickets for $10 a piece, for $10. And we sold an additional 30 tickets for $25, which came with an after show meet and greet, where they got to come on one-on-one, just like you are. She brought up the person, they chatted for a few minutes, and then she would bring up the next person. And those people got to hang out and watch and experience this whole entire thing. And in the process, we would show merchandise, say, hey, we have these new bracelets, they're available. We put a link in the comments. They went to the store. So we did 200 something tickets at $10, 30 tickets at $25. And then we sold about another $900 in merchandise. So it was a $3,000 night, and she never left her house. She just picked up her acoustic guitar and sang right into her computer, and everyone's clapping, doing emojis, and feeling like they're a part of this experience, and they never had to leave their house. And to them, she had built up the relationship enough where they felt spending an evening with her was worth $10. It took us a little while to get to that, but now we do them every month. And now she's making, $2,500, $3,500 a month doing these virtual shows. We're pre-selling tickets to the next show during the actual show. It's like people want to be a part of this. Every show is different. And then she'll sell what we call digital goods. With the ticket price, you get an autograph set list. It's a digital. She'll write the set list out. She'll sign it. We'll take a picture and we'll send it to them digitally. They may get an unreleased song that we'll send to them digitally. She'll do a piece of artwork specific for that show with the date on it. We'll take a picture of it. We'll make it in Canva, which is free. And we offer that as part of the experience. You're going to get unreleased music. You're going to get a set list. You're going to get this. And then for those of you that want to come in on the meet and greet, you're going to get that opportunity as well. Now, you can do that as a business owner too, not just as a musician. If you are a way that you teach, charge $10 for people to come on, teach for an hour, and then offer another thing. If they want to come and ask you specific questions personal to their business, then you charge a little bit more for that. People will pay for that. That's how I built my business model. I have online courses, and then I have what's called office hours. Once a week, artists come to me on Zoom. They ask me questions specific to their business. So they're like getting a virtual manager. I charge $97 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, do you think there's 1,000 people in the world who are interested in doing music that would love to learn from me? The answer was yes. And then I said, here, I'll create all these tools for them. I'll give them the toolbox full of these tools. I'll let them know what tool they should use at what point in the project they should use the tools, make sure they have all the tools that they need. And then I'm just getting together one day a week, Mondays at 3 p.m. Central Time for however long. And people come on, they ask questions. The more questions they ask, I'm like, wow, I should probably create something that I could sell based on all these questions because people have a need for this. So if you're a business owner, use that business model. Go digital. Don't have to print. You don't have to package. You don't have to ship. All you have to do is show up. All you have to do is take whatever's in your brain that somebody else needs. I always say, if you're one chapter ahead in the book, you've got something to offer the person just starting the book. Because ultimately what we're selling is speed. We're selling time and learning. We're selling, you can't have me as your manager, but I can help guide you with management guidance and not take a percentage, because most of you aren't making anything for me to commission anyway. But does that mean you shouldn't get expert advice? No. So that was the business model that I created that absolutely changed my life, my family's life, and thousands of artists all over the world's life.
Absolutely. And I love it. So before I transition, I want to transition to a conversation that we had when we were in Nashville together not too long ago. But what are some of the other ways for the musician to monetize? So we've got obviously
touring, merchandise, streaming, getting your music in film and television, teaching guitar lessons. If you're a vocalist, teaching vocal lessons. Don't be afraid to be a backup guitarist for somebody. It's like you just have to be willing. If you want to focus solely on your music and not have a different job, you may have to go work at Guitar Center. You may have to teach guitar lessons or any instrument that you do, or vocal lessons, or producers make beats for other people, or engineer sessions for other people. You've just got to get creative. There are, everyone's different. No two artists' career paths have ever been the same, and no two-person skill sets are the same, or the way that they teach, or the way that they learn. So you've just got to figure out in any business, what value do you bring to the consumer that they would be willing to pay for?
And you mentioned the ones that you mentioned that most people would have more control over, like getting placement in film and television, things like that. That relies a lot on the network and the relationship someone has.
Well, it does. And there's places for you to invest to go get that understanding of what makes a song on the radio different from a song that you hear in a movie. How do people in the position of looking for those songs, where do they look for those songs? Who do they contact to get those songs? What type of songs are they looking for? What distribution channels do they use to get these? I have people who are experts in that space that teach that. I have people that are experts in jingle writing. There are people right now that are really good songwriters that are writing songs for a husband to his wife, where he'll give them a bunch of information about their life together, and they'll write him a personal song and present it to him. And he buys it outright for $15,000, $20,000, and he owns it, and he's able to present it to her. There's all kinds of different ways. You just have to get creative, or you need to put yourself in a position to learn from others that are doing it, and not be afraid to invest in yourself as a business to say, I know I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. I may want to perform surgery, but you better hope that I went to school and learned how to perform surgery. And you better hope that I'm not the first person that you're the first person I'm trying the surgery on. You need to make sure that I've done it before. So learn from practitioners. People don't come to me to learn how to sing. They come to me to learn how to find an audience.
Guitar, for that matter. I saw that one ad.
Yeah, you saw me. Why I don't do it. It's like I can get up there and act like it, but there's a lot of people.
The string too, by the way, Rick.
And tuning. There's a lot of people that will read an article and verse themselves really well in this article and act like they're the expert, but they can't teach it because they don't do it. So find people that do what it is that you want to accomplish. If you want to open a successful business, find out what it would cost for you to sit down with a person that's running a successful business and learn the ins and outs of running a successful restaurant. If you want to open a car shop, if you want to play guitar, whatever it is, find that person that's already doing what it is that you want to do, that's having success, and figure out what it's going to cost you to learn from them. That's the best way to learn today, is to learn from someone who's already been where you want to go.
Exactly. So that brings me back to the bigger picture of the business in general. One of the things that's stuck in my mind, we were talking, I think it was, I don't know if it was, I was in Nashville. We were at that golf place where you were.
The sanctuary.
Yeah. And you were going to give a talk to the local Better Business Bureau or something like that. You had mentioned me, and you said to me, Jared, basically what I teach within the music industry blueprint, it correlates to business in general.
It does.
Correlates the principles that you teach within that program. And I went through it, and it was a fantastic program. If anybody hasn't gone into the music industry blueprint to look at it, I highly recommend it. As a musician, yes, myself, but as a business entrepreneur, I learned so much.
Well, what I tell people that are business people that buy my course is buy it to plagiarize it and duplicate it for whatever industry that you're in.
Because
all of my
courses can be duplicated.
It can. And every one of my teachings starts with the mindset. Get them in the right mindset. Then I teach them how to build their websites and their email list and things like that. You need that in any business that you're in.
Sure.
Once again, the key is, what does your audience need? Take yourself back to a beginner's mindset. Sometimes we know what we know, and we don't realize, okay, let me go back to when I didn't know. What did I need when I first started my business? I built my own website. Best and worst thing I ever did. Once I learned that I could have paid someone a third to do a much better job than I did, my ego of saying, I built my own website. Yeah, you're a moron, Rick, because it took you 25 hours and that kid could have done it in 2. Understand what you need in your business. You need a piece of real estate that you own and control. That is your website. Everything else is rental property, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is. We're borrowing that. So you need your own house. You also need a way to have direct communication with these folks whenever you want to communicate with them. That is your email list. Then what you need, I always tell people, I'll build the relationship through social. I sell through my email list. I will go out, create short pieces of content that strike a nerve, solve a problem, and say, hey, if that's you and you want to learn more, come to me. I'll show you more. And that's when I say, I'll show you that I even know more than what I just shared with you in 30 seconds. I'll spend an hour with you, show you I know even more, and then I'll give you an opportunity to work with me longer. So I earn the right to make the offer. I take the time to show them that I might be the solution that they've been looking for. And when I say that I've organized it and it's step by step, and go do A, B, C, and D happens, changes everything. So all of you think about what you have, what you know, what is it that you do? What field are you in? You may say to yourself, well, I'm just an insurance agent. Okay, what did you have to do to become an insurance agent? What are some tricks that you could teach me when interviewing for the position that you have that I want? What are some things that I shouldn't do? What are some things that I shouldn't say? You just create a little checklist, sell it for $5, let somebody give you $5, you send them a PDF, and you get 1,000 people that want to become insurance agents. You just made $5,000.
That's exactly what I like to think of this. I mean, you were around and I was around when the internet came out. Yep. We saw the .com boom. We saw the wealth that got generated with that. And I just wrote a blog a few weeks ago, one of my weekly blogs that I send out every Saturday morning, in the Rugged Human Letter. And I entitled it, I think, Digital Dirt was what I called it. And I talked about the opportunity of what the internet converging now with AI and converging with COVID. All of this moment in history in this time, I believe, is the biggest opportunity for small business and entrepreneurs that I've seen in my lifetime.
I agree.
And it goes exactly with what you were talking about, because when we leverage what we now have available, and I was thinking back, even when I started my first company back, this was back in the day in Santa Barbara, what we could have done had we just had a cell phone, right?
Right.
So my question then is how big of that opportunity? Because I've seen Tony Robbins, I've seen Dean Graziosi, I've seen now Matthew McConaughey, and I've seen a lot of high profile figures that have a coaching kind of a model, or that didn't really weren't focusing so much on the online learning, who are now doubling down on it online. Guys
It's
like
a
Grant Cardone, right?
multi-billion-dollar business, the online learning.
Exactly.
It's
And
the
it's
at
getting
moment
exponentially
learning.
bigger.
It's going to continue to be, because one is, there was a time when you couldn't afford to get with Tony Robbins. You couldn't afford to sit down and learn what Tony knows. So then Tony said, okay, I can have 100,000 individual meetings, which is unrealistic and will never happen, or I can take all my knowledge, put it into a form where 100,000 people can consume it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can charge a minimal price for
Mm-hmm.
that. Grant Cardone, everything he knows about real estate, Grant put into a course where you can learn everything that he knows. He holds nothing back. And the cool part about digital products is whenever something changes, like in the music business, which changes very fast, I'm able to just update a video. I don't have to reprint DVDs. I don't have to send them out to people. I don't have to do any of that. So the digital learning space is massive. I spend a lot of money myself still to this day on digital learning. It's like, I call it at moment. What do I need at the moment? I go, I buy it, I learn it, I put it aside. If I need to go get it again, I can go get it again, from the books that I have to the online courses that I purchase to the seminar that I might attend. If I can't attend a seminar, there's a guy that will sell me the footnotes and bullet points from that seminar. You know, there's nothing that I can't get today. There's nothing that any of you can. I don't have to go to Harvard to learn from a professor. I can go on YouTube and see this professor doing a presentation in front of his class and learn the same thing that the people in that class did. And all it took me was the time to go research it, find it, and absorb it, and then do something with what you absorb. Too often people are so full of knowledge. It's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know, is something Brendan Burchard used to always say. And it stuck with me, because there's a lot of people that are really smart, but they're also very dumb at the same time, because they never use what it is that they've learned. So don't try to learn everything. Learn what you need at that moment. I say we live in a series of next. If I accomplish this, what's next? Okay, learn what I need to get this done. What's next? Do I know how to do it? Yes, do it. What's next? Do I not know how to do it? Great. Do I have the time to learn it myself, or do I need to bring in an expert and hire someone who's already done it to get me to that next? We're just in a series of next.
I love that analogy. That's fantastic. So now that we see that opportunity, because that's one of the things I talk about all the time with is that opportunity I was talking about in the blog. Let's bring that back down a little bit. What would be, let's go back into Rick's advice section.
Sure.
If you were a disgruntled employee and you wanted to say, hey, I wanted to start my own business, but don't have any idea where to start, or say you are a young kid who's debating going to college. Yep. I think there's a lot of these people out there right now who, I know a lot of my nephews and nieces, they're all in their early to mid 20s. They're all struggling with what is going to happen. Do I want to continue to learn more? Do I want to go into a trade? What am I going to do? And what would be Rick's advice to that person? And what would be Rick's advice to somebody like me, say 5, 6, 10 years ago? I did my radical life change, went on a walkabout, decided to change things up, and rugged human was what I came out, right? So there's that section too, when someone who wants to start over, but they don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about the online marketplace, online learning, or digital opportunities. They're not very good at social media. They're like, What would your advice be to those two kinds of people?
One is, you have to ultimately decide what it is that you want. Mm-hmm. Only you can make that decision. You need to determine what your goal is. And let me rephrase that, realistic goal is, and work backwards. Most people just go forward. And if they go forward with no goal, they get off track. They can't get back. It's like, as long as you punch in the destination in Waze or Google Maps, you can veer off, but it's going to say recalculating. It's always going to bring you back on track. Most people start the journey without knowing where it is that they're going. Once you've decided what it is that you want to do, I myself would say, what's the quickest, fastest way for me to get there? Do I need to go to school for 4 years because I want to learn a specific trade? That might be the case. If all you're wanting to do is be an entrepreneur, or if you just want to be in business, you don't have to go to school to be in business, but you need to learn from someone how to be in business. Some people need structured learning. That's how they learn. That wasn't me. I didn't want to learn science if I wasn't going to use science. I didn't want to learn history if I didn't want to go into history. I can go to the internet and say, hey, tell me about World War II, and I can read and learn, watch a movie, do whatever it is. But once you decide what it is that you want to do, figure out the quickest path to get there. What skill sets do you need to learn? If you do not like social media, then you hire someone who understands social media. If you don't like being in front of a camera, hire someone to be the face of your business. Don't try to be everything, especially when you're not comfortable doing it. There's no way that I would do my own taxes. There's no way. It's like, I'm really good. I don't read off you can't put me in front of a teleprompter. It's so unnatural to me. I speak fluidly. So when I give a presentation, I've got bullet points. I know the stories I want to tell. I know the path that I want to take people down. I know how I want them to feel at the end of this presentation or webinar or whatever it is. And then I have a solution for them that I will present to them at the end. I never go in and say, screw it. Let's just wing it. Let's just see where this goes. Now, you sent me an outline. I just said, Jared's got the outline. He's going to ask the questions. I'm going to give him the answers. I did not go and prepare answers for every question that you sent me. I knew where we were going. I knew ultimately what you wanted to accomplish. So I was just going to say, Jared is the tour guide. When he needs my opinion, he'll ask it. When he has a question, he'll ask it. And it's not up to me to try to divert us off this path that he's on, because he knows the end result that he wants to get. You prepared yourself. Most people do not prepare themselves for success. They want it. It's like my buddy Ray Daniels has this quote that I absolutely love. He said, most people will pray for opportunities, but they won't prepare for opportunities. They pray for the opportunity, but they aren't prepared for it, or they don't prepare for it. And a lot of people get opportunities that they miss because they weren't prepared, or because they wanted something before they were ready. It's like, you want to wrestle in the WWE and be at whatever, SummerSlam or whatever. You just can't say, I want to wrestle at WWE, show up at SummerSlam without training, without working your butt off, without getting body slammed a couple times. You do not want that to be the first time that you get body slammed, or you will probably die. Even though that's what you want, you now have to say, okay, if my goal is to be at SummerSlam, what do I have to do to lead myself up to that? Start at the goal, work backwards.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes is Covey, which is similar to that, from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of my top reads, highly recommended to anybody who has not read it. Begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
Right? That is one of the principles I have lived most of my life by in a lot of things. And I think it's attributable to a lot of my own personal success, whether it be in business or just, in life in general. That is a huge thing. If anybody can take one thing away from that, is know where you want to go before you just go out there. There's nothing wrong with going and experimenting, because doing one thing differently every day is going to change us by giving us more opportunity and exposing more opportunity. But if we can't capitalize on the opportunity, if we can't grasp the opportunity, we don't have the ability, or we're not ready yet, exactly as you said, then it's going to be a worthless opportunity and we will squander it.
That's right.
That is amazing. So one of the things then, before I think we were about ready to wrap it up, is there anything that you think that I might be missing as far as some of the things that we talked about? Because the stuff that we have talked about with your business and your business model is not just for the musician. It's recognizing the opportunity. And to recap the big picture of this, the online learning space is probably the biggest opportunity out there right now, whether it's a musician who's looking to take their business into that realm, because that's where they're going to find their biggest success, because you now have the ability to, reach the globe. You have the ability.
You do. And I think, the thing that really propelled my business to the next level was when I went all in on online advertising, running Facebook and Instagram ads, knowing that I can target the right person to get my message in front of. The key for all of this is, one, start small. Get those little mini victories. Those little mini victories will turn into much larger victories. It's like, let's get up to bat before we get on base, before we get the home run. It's like we want to go out and just shoot for, get these home runs and get these touchdowns. We have to start at the beginning stages. Put yourself in the best position possible in order to succeed. Understand that people, so I didn't graduate high school. I didn't go to college. I took some college classes at Santa Barbara City College. One, I wanted to, as a joke, I wanted to see if I could pass a communications class already having a job on the radio in communication. So I thought that would be funny.
Was this one of those points you guys did back in the day?
Yeah, and we did. We documented it, recorded it, the whole thing. But go get whatever information that you need. Become a solution to a problem that someone has. People come to me because they know I finish things. You know, no one has ever asked me for a resume. No one has ever asked me where I went to school. No one has ever asked me what college I graduated from. People come to me because they've seen what I've done. You get paid for what people have seen you do. Never underestimate who might be watching. I have walked into 6-figure consulting deals because someone saw me working for someone else, or someone saw a result and said, how did you get that result? And they said, I brought in Rick Barker and he walked us through our business. I do a lot of work outside of music because, once again, the strategies of business are all the same. It's the tools that change. It's the tactics that change. Don't fight technology. Everything that has ever been created, if you think about it, has been created for speed. The car, because people knew it was faster than the horse. The cell phone, the email, because it's faster than mail. The cell phone, because you didn't have to wait to get to a payphone. The payphone, because you couldn't get back to your house in order to make a change. AI, everything. Everything's faster now. That's what we look for. Technology is speed. Online learning is speed. Being able to listen to a podcast is speed and learning. You didn't have to wait till you met me. You were able to meet me because Jared knew me. You were able to get my input and advice without having to physically ever. Some of you have never heard of me before. Some of you didn't know what I did or what I've done or how I could help you. This is what technology did. It allowed us to get in front of each other today, for me to hopefully say something that sparked a light bulb or, validated things that you might already be doing. You may be doing everything I've already said and said, good. Now I know that it's where I'm supposed to be because I see the success this person has had. So that's what technology is. Do not fight change. Do not fight change. Use those tools. If you don't know how to use them, learn how to use them, or hire someone who already knows how to use them.
Fantastic. Mr. Rick Barker, thank you very much for coming.
I appreciate you having me.
Yes. No, it's great. I need to get out to Nashville. It's been a while. We need to go hit some golf balls around.
Absolutely. And we'll do it indoors so we don't lose any.
That's right. That is. We'll have to decide what course we want to play. I've never played St. Andrews.
Yes. We'll have to get on a plane to get to St. Andrews. Won't be able to pull. Well, we can play St. Andrews on the TrackMan.
Do you have virtual?
We do have virtual St. Andrews, yes. Okay. And Pebble Beach.
Okay. Pebble Beach, I've actually golfed at in real life before.
Go to my website, rickbarker.com. Check it out there. If you're an Instagram person, that's where I hang out. I'm at Rick Barker Music on Instagram.
Fantastic. All right, Rick, my friend, I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks for listening to the Rugged Human Podcast. For more information about Rick Barker and the music industry blueprint, go to rickbarker.com. Join the Rugged Human newsletter today to get weekly updates in your inbox at ruggedhuman.com. Talk to you next time.